Ladies and gentlemen, look at your life. What is the essence of your story? If your days are like the ticking of a clock, repeating the same comfortable, predictable rhythm, then I ask you, where is your story? Life does not bloom in the same. Flowers only when you step out into the uncertain, into the unknown where the soil is wild and untamed. Without risk, your story is a blank page, or worse, a script written by someone else's fear. Risk is not the absence of wisdom, it is the presence of courage. It is the willingness to face discomfort, to embrace the vulnerability that life demands. When you risk, you awaken a deeper part of yourself, the part that longs to create, to grow, to become more than what you have ever imagined. Fear tells you to stay where it is safe, where it is safe, where the water is calm. But calm waters never made a skilled sailor. The stories worth telling, the stories that touch the heart, are born in storms. You see, every transformation, every moment that changes the trajectory of your life comes wrapped in uncertainty. And if you refuse to step into that uncertainty, you will miss the very essence of living. No risk means no story. And no story means life has passed you by unnoticed, untouched by the magic that only risk can summon. So ask yourself, what are you afraid to lose? And what might you gain if you dare to risk it all? The answers lie in the spaces between comfort and courage. This is the invitation to live fully, to risk deeply, and in doing so, to write a story only you can tell. Because the truth is, if you do not risk, you do not live, you do not live. And if you do not live, there is no story worth telling. Life does not reveal itself in the safety of stillness. It reveals its colors, its textures, and its true meaning only when we dare to move beyond the familiar. Every moment of growth, every chapter of change begins when we choose to step out of our comfort zone. Without that step, life remains flat and unremarkable. When you cling to safety and avoid risk, you create an existence that is predictable but empty. The walls you build around yourself keep pain away, but they also keep joy and discovery out. To truly live means to be vulnerable enough to risk discomfort, failure, and even loss. It is in those moments of exposure that life's richest lessons are found. Risk is the pulse of life. It is what pushes you to try something new, to speak a difficult truth, to follow a passion that others might not understand. It shakes the foundations of your certainty and invites you to explore possibilities beyond your current reality. Through risk, you awaken to your potential. Many people confuse risk with recklessness, but they are not the same. True risk is informed and conscious. It is the deliberate act of moving into the unknown with awareness. Recklessness is blind jumping without care. When you risk wisely, you open doors to experiences that refine your wisdom and deepen your understanding. Fear is the greatest obstacle to risk. It whispers that staying safe is better, that risk is too dangerous, that failure is shameful. But this fear is a shadow, not a fact. It is born from the habit of avoiding discomfort rather than from reality. When you face fear and choose risk anyway, you dissolve the illusion that safety is the highest goal. Every story worth telling has moments where the protagonist risks everything, their security, their reputation, their comfort, to pursue something greater. These moments create the narrative arcs that inspire, move and transform. Without risk, your life story remains flat, without turning points or depth. Risk is not only about big dramatic choices, it lives in daily decisions, the courage to be honest, to forgive, to reach out. So yes, each small risk builds a tapestry of your life. Through these acts, you weave meaning and purpose into the ordinary moments. So life unfolds risk because risk is the language in which life speaks its most profound truths. When you stop risking, you stop listening to life itself. And when you stop listening, you cease to truly live. Transformation never happens by remaining where you are. It begins only when you choose to walk through a doorway that is uncertain and unknown. This doorway is risk. Without stepping through it, you stay stuck in the patterns of who you have been, never becoming who you are meant to be. Risk demands a letting go of control, a willingness to leave behind the familiar and comfortable. This is difficult because the mind wants certainty, safety and predictability. But transformation calls for the opposite. It calls for surrender to the flow of life, which is wild, unpredictable and often uncomfortable. When you open this door and move into risk, you begin to shed old identities and beliefs that no longer serve you. It is as if you leave behind a worn-out skin to reveal something new underneath. This process can be painful because growth often requires loss, but it is necessary for true transformation. Transformation through risk is not instant, it is a journey. It unfolds gradually as you face challenges, make mistakes and learn to adapt. Each step forward takes courage because the future is uncertain. But each step also builds strength and wisdom that change you at your core. Many resist transformation because it feels like losing parts of themselves. Yet risk is not about losing but about gaining a deeper version of yourself. The doorway of risk leads you to discover strengths and qualities you never knew existed within you. It opens your vision to new possibilities. The fear of the unknown is what holds most people back from transformation. But standing still is far more dangerous than moving forward. Without risk, you stagnate and the life you desire remains out of reach. The doorway must be walked through for transformation to occur. Transformation is a gift that risk offers freely to those who dare to open the door. It is not guaranteed or easy, but it is always worth it. When you emerge on the other side, you see the world and yourself with new eyes, enriched by experience and growth. Therefore, risk is not something to be feared or avoided, but honored as the necessary passage to transformation. It is the threshold where your old self ends and your new self begins. If you choose to stay away from risk, you choose to live without change, without true life. Fear is a powerful force that binds the human mind and heart, freezing movement before it even begins. When fear takes hold, it builds invisible walls around us, walls that prevent us from stepping forward into new experiences or possibilities. These walls protect us from the unknown but also imprison us in familiar patterns. Because of fear, many remain trapped in situations that no longer serve them. They stay in jobs, relationships, or ways of thinking that are comfortable but limiting. The safety that fear promises is an illusion, because beneath that safety lies a slow death of the spirit and a life half-lived. Stagnation caused by fear is not always loud or obvious. It often appears as indecision, procrastination, or endless planning without action. The mind becomes busy trying to control outcomes, but it never takes the leap required to break free. In this way, fear becomes a master of disguise, hiding behind logic and caution. Fear distorts reality by amplifying worst-case scenarios and ignoring the possibilities for growth and success. It convinces us that staying put is better than risking failure or disappointment. But in truth, failure is not the enemy. Fear itself is. It keeps you chained to the spot while the world continues to move around you. When you allow fear to dictate your choices, you deny yourself the chance to evolve. Life is change, movement and becoming. To stand still is to resist the very nature of existence. Fear asks you to settle for less than you are capable of, to trade your potential for comfort. Breaking free from fear requires awareness and courage. The first step is to recognize how fear operates, how it whispers doubts and builds excuses. Then even in the presence of fear, you decide to act. Movement is the antidote to stagnation. Every step forward dissolves the power fear holds over you. It is important to understand that fear will not disappear completely. It is part of being alive. But when you learn to move despite fear, you open the door to growth and transformation. Fear no longer controls you. It becomes a companion that signals you're on the edge of something important. Ultimately, fear keeps us stagnant only if we let it. When you face fear and choose to move forward anyway, you break the chains of stagnation and embrace the flow of life. This is how you grow, how you change and how you truly live. Every great story carries within it a moment of vulnerability. This moment is often hidden beneath triumphs and victories, but it is the true turning point. Vulnerability is when the mask falls away and the true self is exposed, fragile, uncertain and open. Without this moment, the story remains shallow and incomplete. Vulnerability is not a weakness, though it is often mistaken as such. It is the courage to show up without defenses, to risk being seen as imperfect or flawed. In these moments, the characters reveal their humanity, and it is this humanity that connects us deeply to their journey. The moment of vulnerability breaks the illusion of control. It is when certainty collapses and the character must convey fears and doubts honestly. This confrontation creates tension and growth, making the story compelling and relatable. It reminds us that transformation requires openness, not armor. Vulnerability invites empathy. When we witness a person's struggle laid bare, we no longer see a distant hero, but someone like ourselves. This shared experience of fragility creates a bridge between storyteller and listener, deepening the impact of the story and its meaning. In life, these moments of vulnerability are the crossroads where true change happens. It might be admitting a mistake, asking for help, or facing a fear. These moments are uncomfortable and risky, but they hold the seeds of renewal and strength. Without embracing vulnerability, we remain stuck in superficiality. Great stories teach us that vulnerability is essential for connection. It dissolves isolation and allows trust to form. When a character embraces vulnerability, they also invite others to do the same. creating a ripple effect that transforms not just one life but many. The power of vulnerability lies in its honesty. It strips away pretense and exposes the raw truth of our experience. This truth, even when painful, is what makes a story timeless and unforgettable. It is the light that shines through the cracks, illuminating the path forward. Therefore, every great story has a moment of vulnerability because that moment holds the key to transformation, connection, and authenticity. It is the place where the old self is challenged and the new self begins to emerge. Without it, the story loses its heart and its soul. Risk is often misunderstood as recklessness, but the two are very different in nature. Recklessness is blind action without thought or care for consequences. Risk, on the other hand, is born from awareness, a deep understanding of what is at stake and a conscious choice to move forward anyway. When you risk with awareness, you are not abandoning reason or wisdom. You are fully present with the reality of the situation, acknowledging both the potential dangers and the possible rewards. This awareness sharpens your senses and guides your decisions, making your actions intentional rather than impulsive. Recklessness ignores the consequences and acts out of impulse or desperation. It is a refusal to consider the impact of one's actions on oneself or others. Risk, when grounded in awareness, balances courage with prudence. It knows when to push forward and when to pause and reflect. True risk requires clarity about your values, your goals and the environment you are stepping into. It is not the absence of fear, but the mastery over fear through understanding. When you act from this place, you are aligned with your deeper purpose rather than reacting to external pressures. Awareness also means being ready to accept responsibility for the outcomes of your risks. Whether you succeed or fail, you stand fully accountable. This accountability deepens your growth and teaches you lessons that reckless behavior never can. Risk taken without awareness often leads to unnecessary harm and regret, but risk taken with awareness opens the door to meaningful growth and transformation. It invites you to stretch beyond your limits while staying connected to your inner wisdom and external realities. The difference between recklessness and risk is the quality of attention you bring. Recklessness is chaotic and scattered. Risk is focused and mindful. This distinction is what separates a story of ruin from a story of triumph. So remember that risk is not recklessness but awareness. A deliberate act that honors both courage and wisdom. It is the conscious stepping into the unknown with eyes wide open, ready to learn, adapt and grow.